YouTube, what's going on? If you're new here, my name is Roger. I own a company called QBO Tactical where we make holsters and gear and also film content for this channel. Today's video is what all of you Staccato warranty voiding guys and gals have been waiting for. Yes, it is time. It is finally here. The Monsoon Tactical Chunk Port modification versus the Vulcan Machine Works Stacc Port porting system comparison video. Here we go. As always, I like to give you guys full transparency on how I go about getting these products in for review. I purchased not one, not two, but three Staccato P 4.4 inches from our good buddies over at Ventura Munitions here in Las Vegas. They are great friends of the channel and always hook us up with the good deals and pricing. They are definitely my go-to local shop when getting new guns and gear here in town. Now, as for the modifications, both Monsoon Tactical and Vulcan Machine Works were nice enough to machine these Staccato Ps for us free of charge so that we can compare the two different porting methods in today's video. A big thank you to both companies for working with us to bring you guys this video. Not only were they generous with the machine work, but they were both happy about the idea for the video and only had good things to say about one another. Definitely some stand-up guys behind both Monsoon Tactical and Vulcan Machine Works, something I definitely like to see in our industry. Okay, moving on. The third Staccato P will be used as the control in this experiment, having left it in the stock non-ported configuration. During this review, all three guns were equipped with a Surefire X300 Ultra weapon light to ensure that each gun was as similar as they could get. We even have some bonus footage of some other Staccatos in different sizes for you at the end, so make sure to watch this video all the way through. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get on to what you guys all came to see, the range portion with our thoughts on the two different modifications. For this video, we actually had a few different range sessions as the weather made us stop the first time. Then there was this off-road race in our shooting area the following weekend, and then it was hailing during another range session, which forced us to once again stop. So anyway, after about 5 different attempts to film all of the range footage, we got it done, and here we are. For this review, I decided that we would just get straight to the point and answer the question you all have right out of the gate. That is, which is better, the chunk port or the Stacc Port? Well, John, Ethan, and I hope to answer that question for you in this video. I figured the best way to do this would be to have all three guns on a table with 5 rounds each and have us shoot them right next to each other immediately after one another and give our initial thoughts right there immediately after shooting them about which one we liked more and why. So here's that footage now. All right, we got John here. We have all three of the Staccatos that we're going to shoot for this portion. First is going to be the new P DPO. This one is stock with no porting. John, go for it. 5 rounds.
Very nice.
Next up is going to be the Stacc Port on a P Duo 4.4 inch. From Vulcan Machine Works.
Very nice.
And the last one is going to be the chunk port on a P Duo 4.4 inch from our buddy Vinny over at Monsoon Tactical. Go for it.
Nice.
All right, John, so all 124 Winchesters through all three guns side by side. What are your thoughts?
Well, they're all really nice guns. The stock one is pretty smooth, but it's nothing compared to the ported ones as far as keeping it flat. The red dot stays right on. I don't see a lot of difference between the Stacc Port and the chunk port. Probably like the Stacc Port a little bit better. It just seems a little bit smoother, but as far as flatness, they're both identical to me.
All right, let's get Ethan up. All right, we got Ethan up next. First gun he's going to run is the PDPO 4.4 inch non-ported. Go for it, bud. Running Winchester 124 grain. Next up is going to be the Stacc Port P Duo from Vulcan Machine Works 4.4 inch. Go for it. And last but not least is going to be the Chunk Port from our buddies over at Monsoon Tactical. Go for it. Alright, Ethan, shooting all three side by side like a Pepsi challenge. You got Pepsi, Coke, Kirkland. What are you feeling? What are your thoughts on them? The stock versus stack versus chunk.
I mean, they're all so smooth, even the stock one. But when it comes down to the two ported guns, I like Coke better, so I'm taking the chunk port. That's my Coke. For me, it just feels like it really pulls the gun down, and it keeps that red dot on the target.
Gotcha. So you're feeling more propellant gas coming out the top, keeping the gun flat for you.
Yep.
Gotcha. All right, let me give it a whirl. All right, guys, it is now my turn. The first gun I'm going to run, like everybody else, the PDPO 4.4 inch stock, no porting whatsoever, 124 from Winchester. Here we go. Next is going to be the Stacc Port from Vulcan Machine Works on the P Duo 4.4 inch. And lastly is going to be the Chunk Port on the P Duo from Vinny over at Monsoon Tactical. Stand by. Okay, so the reason earlier I said for Ethan the Pepsi challenge, I knew that for shooting the two ported guns, you're gonna have to shoot them side by side to like really tell a difference. I too am a fan of Coke, so I'm gonna say for me, it's kind of both. They both, as far as tracking and keeping the gun flat, they both do almost identical. It's just a little different in how they do it. With Ethan, what he was saying, how he sees a much more drastic push down with the chunk port. Having this large port for me, I don't have to drive the gun forward as much as I normally do. I run a thumbs forward grip, and I typically, I'll drive my guns forward to keep the recoil down when they're not ported. With this, I don't have to do it as much because it's such a large port that's forcing it down all at once. Versus the Stacc Port, I don't have to push it down super hard either. But with the Stacc Port, it's kind of a gradual recoil impulse that's keeping it down. So the propellant gases on the chunk port, all of it shoots up at once, forcing the gun down, versus the Stacc Port, which shoots it all the gases up out of the four ports in sequence. So it's kind of, they both keep the gun the same in regards to how flat they are. However, the way that it does it for me is a little different. Which do I like better? Again, it's kind of a tie for me. They both shoot the same for me. I would feel comfortable shooting either one. So there are going to be reasons why I would carry one over the other, and we'll get to that later on in the video. But for everybody asking out there which one is flatter, it's a tie in my book. So as you can see, we were all a little torn. However, I will say that the one common denominator was that each modification kept the gun extremely flat and made an already great shooting gun even better. Now, I know some of you are probably not happy with my answer and were expecting me to pick one or the other. To that I say, hold on, stay with me, there's more.
But wait! There's more!
Now, of course, I had to do some side-by-side comparisons in slow motion, showing the differences in recoil among different grains of 9mm ammunition. So here is that footage now. All right, guys, as always, we're going to run 3 different types of ammunition. 12 rounds each mag. The first 4 rounds, 115. Second set, 124s. Last set, 147s, the Winchester Ranger, what I carry for my defense ammo. Anyway, we're going to start with the non-ported P Duo, and then we will go to the chunk port and then the Stacc Port. Now for the Stacc Port. And now for the chunk port. I also wanted to do some comparisons with my favorite drill, the 6-round bill drill. However, I wanted to eliminate as much of the human error as I could. I'm referring to the presentation and speed of my draw. So I ran each bill drill from the up position, meaning I was already on target with my red dot lined up. Again, there will be a little bit of human error as my reaction time will play a role in the times of each drill, but it's a lot less error than my draw. Anyway, here's that footage now as well. First shot 0.22, total time 1.10. First shot was a 0.22 and total time 1.06. Go again, stand by, stand by. First shot 0.16, total time 0.98. First shot again 0.22 and total time 1.07. Last one, here we go, stand by. First shot 0.31, total time 1.13. First shot 0.2, total time 1.02. Now the first chunk port gun I shot was my C2 Duo, the 3.9 inch model, and the first Stacc Port gun I shot was my buddy's older P, the 4.15 inch model. And I figured since we had both of these guns and their barrel lengths were closer to one another, we might as well stack them up against each other in slow motion with the different grains of 9mm ammunition so that we could see how each of them recoiled as well. So here's that footage now. C2 Duo, 115 grain first. Now the 124s. And now the 147s. Staccato P 4.15 inch 115 grain first. Now for the 124s. And lastly, the 147s. Okay, if you're familiar with my channel, then you know that I like to select guns, gear, or whatever with a specific purpose in mind. For example, my favorite Staccato is hands down the XC, and I enjoy shooting it more than any other gun on the market. However, I wouldn't carry it because of how light the trigger is, so that's why I carry a C2 Duo with the chunk port modification. I get a similar integrated compensator effect like the XC, but with a carry trigger and in a more compact form so that it's easier and more comfortable to carry concealed daily. So what does this mean in regards to the chunk port or the stack port? If you're trying to decide between the two, you have to look at a few things. For example, do you run a Safariland ALS RDS holster? If you do, then the chunk port is not for you. You see, the ALS or automatic locking system from Safariland locks onto the opening at the ejection port. When drawing your chunk ported firearm from this holster, the ALS lever will lock onto the large single port at the end of your gun, causing the holster to retain it, and it prevents you from drawing. All right, Ethan, do me a favor, show me an empty gun. Gun is empty. Okay, go ahead and push the slide forward. Go ahead and holster up for me. Okay, go for the draw. All right, do me a favor, show me now how you have to release it. And show me the chunk port real quick. Thank you, sir. If you run the Stacc Port modification with a Safariland ALS holster, you will not encounter this problem, as the smaller size ports do not hinder you from drawing your firearm. Now, if you already have a chunk ported Staccato and you're freaking out and you're worried about that you're not going to be able to utilize an active retention style holster, don't freak out. Blackhawk has come out with their T-Series holster with an active retention lever, which grabs onto a different part of the firearm in order to retain it. This holster is sold directly through Staccato, and we've actually done a review on each of these holsters showing the features of both. You can actually check out that video here. If you're running a really cool holster like the secondary on the waistband holsters we were all using in this video, made by yours truly, you're not going to have any issues whatsoever. The ones that we used in this video were all wrapped in different fabric overlays that we offer on our website, but there is one I really wanted to show off. It's the new Bougie Chameleon LV vinyl overlay we just got in. It came out super clean and just looks really cool in my opinion. It will be on the website very soon. Okay, enough with my shameless plug. Now back to the review. So what if you are someone who really enjoys their iron sights, especially the front fiber optic sight? If this is something that is really important to you, then you probably don't want the Stacc Port, as the ports are directly behind the front sight, and after one range session, your green or red fiber will now be a solid black front blade. Now for me personally, this isn't a deal breaker as they are backup sights for me since I run red dots on all of my handguns. However, if you don't run an optic and your iron sights are your primary aiming method, then you may want the chunk port as the port is placed in front of your front sight. When you send your slide into Monsoon Tactical, they relocate your front sight directly behind the port so that it's not affected by the propellant gases. Also, while we are talking about the front sight area, one other thing to note, if you are one of those guys who likes to rack from the front of your slide with those front serrations, just know that they do tend to get a little hot after shooting different strings of fire on the range with the Stacc Port. The Stacc Ports are machined directly on top of those front serrations, so this area will get a little hotter than normal. Again, this isn't a big deal for me as I can just as easily grab the rear serrations and rack the slide that way if needed. Now let's talk about velocity loss. With porting a firearm, there is going to be a loss in velocity as some of the propellant gases are now exiting other holes in the barrel. Per Vulcan Machine Works, the Stacc Port is going to give you a loss of about 80 feet per second, and per Monsoon Tactical, with the chunk port, you're going to see a loss of about 24 feet per second. To me, both of these amounts are negligible, but some of you may not share the same opinion, and this could be a deciding factor for you. I was actually really curious about how the different porting methods affected the velocity of each round, so I decided to borrow a chronograph and conduct an experiment. Let me further explain with this range footage here. All right guys, we're out here on the range in the daytime, a little windy, starting to rain, but we have the chronograph out here. I wanted to get the actual feet per second per gun. We have a stock non-ported P-Duo, the chunk port, and the Stacc Port. We have 5 rounds of 124 grain in each. The chronograph's cool, it actually connects to your phone via Bluetooth, so I will run a little picture-in-picture of the recordings in the top left corner of this while we're shooting these. So without further ado, stock non-ported P-Duo, 5 rounds, 124 grain, let's go.
1090, 1096, 1084, 1094, 1094.
Doesn't like that mag. Okay, so we'll average that out when we get back in studio. I'm going to switch over to the chunk port screen now. Same thing, chunk port, 5 rounds, 124 grain, here we go.
1084, 1071, 1051, 1065, 1062.
Okay, chunk port's done. We'll switch over to the Stacc Port now. And again, 5 rounds. Did the Vulcan Machine Works Stacc Port, P-Duo, 124 grain. Here we go.
1061, 1050, 1037, 1055, 1051.
All right, we got all those done. We'll go back to studio, get the numbers done, and go over that now. All right, so with my calculations, the stock non-ported Staccato P had an average velocity of 1,091.6 feet per second. The chunk ported Staccato P had an average velocity of 1,066.6 feet per second, and the Stacc ported Staccato P had an average velocity of 1,050.8 feet per second. Doing a little bit of math, we now know from this experiment that the chunk port showed a loss of 25 feet per second and the Stacc Port showed a loss of 40.8 feet per second. This test was done using 124 grain 9mm ammunition, and again, I think that the loss in velocity with either modification is negligible and not something I would worry about when porting my guns. Okay, now let's talk about pricing, lead times, and what's included with each modification. The chunk port mod for Staccato P with a single layer of Cerakote, the front sight relocated, and a lead time of about 4 to 5 weeks at the time of this video is going to run you about $350. It will also include a custom spring from Monsoon Tactical that honestly makes the gun feel like butter. Again, I get those XC vibes when cycling the slide with the included spring. It gives it that effortless feel to pull the slide back, or even the cool guy air racking thing. Now the Stacc Port porting package for Staccato P includes the porting of the barrel and slide and a single layer of Cerakote as well. This is going to cost you about $300 and their lead time at the time of this video is about 6 weeks. Vulcan Machine Works does not provide an additional spring. Instead, they instruct you to use the lighter blue spring included with your Staccato. However, those are no longer included with the new DPO models, and they're actually going to have to be purchased separately from Dawson Precision for about 10 bucks. This also isn't a big deal for me as their modification is about $50 cheaper. A couple of things to note here. If you are not aware already, then I want to make it very clear. Having either of these modifications done to your Staccato will void the factory warranty. If that's something you're not okay with, then I wouldn't recommend either of these modifications. Another thing I want to cover, because I've seen it asked a few times in the comment section, is the DLC coating. At the time of this video, both companies, Monsoon Tactical and Vulcan Machine Works, are not offering recoating of slides or barrels in DLC. I know that Vulcan Machine Works has plans to add the option of recoating the barrels in DLC, but not at this very moment. Another thing that you should consider before having either of these modifications done. A lot of people also ask about muzzle flash and if it affects my ability to continue shooting while at night. My answer to this is that I don't notice it at all when I shoot. I actually only notice it when I watch others shoot these guns or when I review the camera footage. Otherwise, I had no issues with muzzle flash from either modification. That includes under night vision as well. Alright, lastly, let's compare aesthetics. I know a lot of you out there, and myself included, have been guilty of not purchasing something because of how it looks. I think both mods are aesthetically pleasing, but I do have to say that the Stacc Port mod is more clean looking to me. What I mean is that it looks more OEM, like it was done by Staccato themselves from the factory. When I look at the chunk port, I do get those Staccato XC vibes, and that's what I find pleasing about it, as the Staccato XC is my favorite 2011. Okay, so now back to that question. You know, the one about which modification is better or which one you should get. My honest answer, guys, is this. It depends. Let me give you a few examples why. If I was a police officer on a department that authorized porting of duty guns, then I'd most likely go with the Vulcan Machine Works Stacc Port, as I'd still be able to use a Safireland ALS RDS duty holster, which is what I've trained with and what I'm most familiar with. If I wanted the look and feel of a Staccato XC, but in a gun I felt more confident carrying, then I'd go with the Monsoon Tactical Chunk Port. The combination of that large single port, the relocated front sight, and the silky smooth action of the slide from that lighter spring just make it a blast to shoot without that $4,300 price tag of the XC. So speaking of the XC, I thought that something fun to do would be to show the difference in recoil between the chunk port, the Stacc Port, and the XC. I've yet to shoot a gun that I think is smoother or flatter than the XC, and when I was first looking at porting my Staccatos, the whole idea for me was to get me as close to the XC feel, but with a heavier trigger. Anyway, here's some side-by-side footage of all three guns in slow motion, showing the difference in recoil. Okay guys, I'm going to end the video by saying this. If you go with Vulcan Machine Works and their Stacc Port, or if you go with Monsoon Tactical and their Chunk Port, you are making your Staccato shoot even flatter than it already does.
Good point.
I'd say look at what I presented here today in this video and find out what factors seem more appealing to you, whether it be aesthetics, other gear involved, pricing, and or lead times.
Now that was a good idea.
Before we sign off, I want to give a few thank yous and shout outs. First and foremost, thank you again to both Vulcan Machine Works and Monsoon Tactical for working with us to get this video completed. I also want to say congratulations to Vinny of Monsoon Tactical. He recently acquired Cutter Machine Works and will be transitioning the company into his own machining company, Monsoon Tactical. So for those who have been a little confused between Cutter Machine and Monsoon Tactical, this is what has been going on. Again, congratulations on the new business venture, and I know you're going to be busy, bro. Congrats. I also want to say thank you to Extreme Shooters for the awesome stipple jobs they do to the Staccato grips to bring them back to their former glory. If you're familiar with my channel, then you know that I'm not a fan of the newer Gen 2 grips. Luckily, Extreme Shooters has an awesome service where you can send your grip in and they will stipple it in the original STI patterns that used to come with your 2011. Extreme Shooters just came out with this new tactical one they call Tactical Texture, which is pretty awesome, and I am digging it. Their turnaround time is only 2 to 3 days, and you can also use this code QVO10 for any of your 2011 stippling needs on their website. Lastly, I want to thank Ventura Munitions once again. My buddy Mike over there has been one of our biggest supporters and always gets the best stock for our shooting needs here in Vegas. Thank you, Mikey. Much appreciated, man. All right, everyone. That is going to wrap up this comparison video of the Monsoon Tactical Chunk Port and the Vulcan Machine Works Stacc Port. I hope this video answered any questions you might have about either modification. I also hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give us a thumbs up down below because that does help out our channel. If you're new here, please consider subscribing because we post new videos every week. If you want to further support our content, you can check out that Patreon link down below. Our Patreon members, our Patreon squad, they get first access to new content, new gear, special discount codes, and giveaways. They are a huge reason why we keep making these videos for you all to watch. Thanks again for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Alright guys, so just for fun, we decided to take the spring that comes with the Monsoon Tactical Chunk Port, switch it out into the Vulcan Machine Works Stacc Port, and it feels buttery already, I can tell you that much, but let's see how it shoots. Definitely a lot smoother with that spring. Alright, build drill, Stacc Port, stand by. Fuck. There's a blooper.